Right. There we go. Hey, everybody. All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of Note Night in America. Glad to have each and every one of you join us here from across the country, whether you're joining us live on Zoom, on YouTube, or catching the replay across any of our social media channels. We're honored to have you there. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, roll the comments. They are monitored at all times by our staff. Currently monitoring the YouTube and the Zoom stuff live tonight on tonight's call. But I wanted to go through tonight's episode and give a little bit of color to what I'm going to talk about tonight. But before I get to that, let's just go through a little bit of the housekeeping rules just for the heck of it. If this is your first time on Note Night in America, welcome. We're honored to have you. We've been doing these calls for over 13 years. They've evolved from a teleconference to go to webinar. Now we've been on Zoom since Zoom has been around, but honored to have each and every one here. It's also a podcast. This is the 12th year, actually 12th, maybe 13th year we've been doing it. But we've been doing a lot of videos for a long time, and you can always listen to the replays of Note Night in America, either on any of the podcasting platforms, or you can go to our YouTube channel at weclosenotes.tv and watch the replays of those videos there. Lots of great stuff on Note Night in America. We cover a lot of great content, great speakers. If you joined us last week, we had a really great episode with my buddy Larry Roberts, who's a marketing expert who shared a really great session on using Chat GPT and AI, artificial intelligence, in your real estate. And I have to tell you, got a lot of great comments, a lot of great feedback from people, not only that joined us live, but also those that tuned into the replay as well. So I think that replays are over 300 views or something like that, something in the first week, which is really good. I'll take it. I'll take every view we can get because it's what we're here for, guys. That's why we're delivering content. If you go to our YouTube channel, weclosenotes.tv, lots of great stuff. We hit a new record, or not a new record, a new level for us, 1,650 downloads. We're coming up on 1,700 videos on there for you. Over 3,250 views on there. Just under 7,000 subscribers. So thank you again. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you keep up to date with all the different videos and training we provide for you. But anyway, great stuff last week. Check it out. Replays there. Highly encourage you to do that because I learned some stuff. And if I learned something on a Monday night, I'm doing something right. And you can learn something too. But tonight's topic is all about picking your states. And I get this topic, I get this question asked on me all the time of new people. And it's a normal question. Okay. What states should I pick? And everyone is different. I have my states, and those states have evolved over time. You have your states with relationships or stuff in. But what you do with your existing real estate may not match up with the note business. Okay. So you have to approach it from a note investor standpoint, not just a fix, a flicks and flippers or a landlord, because there's states that are good. There's states that you want to avoid like the plague. All right. We know some of the states. We'll talk about some of the states, but I'm not going to go through and answer questions on all 50 states tonight. I'm just going to tell you, not going to do that. One thing I am toying with, and I'll just be with you, in 2020, with the pandemic kicking in, we had the top 40, the Note Nation Top 40 tour, where we went through and highlighted 40 cities, 40 markets out there of opportunities that we saw with defaults and things like that. We are going to be bringing that back. I'm going to tell you that right now. We'll be bringing it back. We probably won't highlight all the same cities. There will be some crossover, but some of the cities like New York City, we're just not going to highlight. A few others like Boston, we're probably not going to highlight because we're just not investing out there. So we're going to pick the top 40 cities or more that we're seeing deals in. And should be some good stuff here for you. All right. Excuse me here in a second. But anyway, let's dive into tonight's comment. So I've had a very good luck of being able to travel a lot for the last 15 years. Okay. And even before that, I was traveling, really going back to 2004 is when I really started traveling a lot with my background. We started a mortgage company. We were fortunate enough to have Bob Leonetti, Jimmy Kayla, who sponsored our mortgage company. They were hooked up with Ron LeGrand out of Jacksonville, Florida. So we were traveling on the Ron LeGrand road tour roughly about 2.5, 3 years. So we're going all across the country twice a month to a different market and getting people there to come and being in front of 1,000 people or 500 investors or 50 people. I got to know a lot of people all across this country. Okay. Got to know a lot of markets too, because not only doing that and taking the time to talk with people that were in their home market, but also as I started coaching and working with investors, I've been coaching with investors since 2006, I guess 2005 is when I first started working with investors in different markets as a coach. It was first marketing, then it was a real estate coach going out and spending time in a market and literally knocking doors and getting to know things. I'll talk about that in a second. But when you're starting as a new real estate investor and you're in a state that's hard to invest in, like Austin, Texas, is a very competitive market, very overpriced. California markets are very overpriced. And you often get tired of trying to invest, squeeze your pennies together, try to find something when there's a bigger bang for the buck outside of your state. But you don't often know where to look or who to turn to and go from there. And that's what it happened with notes. I was getting lists and lists and lists of notes when I first started. Not much were in Austin. So I had to take advantage of what God just gave me the opportunity I saw, and I had to really apply what I learned during my travels into my note investing business to find deals that made sense and then connecting with other investors. So that's what tonight's all about, is helping you pick your states and different, and it's going to be different for each and every one of you. Okay. Each and every one of you are going to have a different business model in some sort of fashion. It should not be all cookie cutter. Like what's working for Linda, it's probably not going to work for RJ, or what's working for RJ is not going to work for like Dickie, or what's working for Don isn't going to work for John. Okay. That rhymed. Poet and didn't even know it. Anyway, but you get what I'm saying, because you all have different relationships, and I'll get that in a second here. So let's talk about that. All right. So the United States technically is your market. I keep thinking of Tony Santana from Scarface, where he's sitting there and the world is your oyster, right? Yes, the United States is technically your market. We even got Canadians and Europeans and Australians and South Americans coming into the United States because it's a great market compared to other places. All right. Middle East and Chinese market, stuff like that. But you don't necessarily want to buy in every state. Okay. And by buying, that term tonight means buying notes. Okay. You can buy real estate in every state that you want. Not all are created equal. Okay. But you don't necessarily want to buy in every state. Okay. There are states that you do want to buy in, and there are states you want to avoid like the plague. Okay. We'll talk about some of these good, the bad, and some of the ugly as we get through. Somebody, cue that. Something from the good, bad, and the ugly. Anyway, like I said, each state is different, and it has different with foreclosure laws, like Texas being the fastest in the country with 21 days, to New York taking like 3 years. Okay. Those are different. You got to know the differences. Like Alabama, you can evict in a fast time period, like 90 days. But if you foreclose, you've got a 1-year redemption period. Minnesota also has a 1-year redemption period. So you got to keep those in mind with different things going on. Evictions are different. You can evict people in 14 days in Indianapolis, but in Chicago, it's going to take you a while to evict. Okay. And like I said, redemption periods can vary, and it can vary on the asset class. If it's a contract for deed versus a true mortgage, some states treat those differently. Otherwise, they sometimes treat them the same. Like Florida treats a contract for deed or a land contract the same as a mortgage. So you've got to go through the judicial process of foreclosing there in the Sunshine State, for, I say, God's waiting room. Okay. So keep that in mind. You're going to need to do your own due diligence. Scotty can't do it all. I mean, I'm giving her all she's got, Captain, and she's coming apart at the seams, but I'm giving her all she's got tonight for everybody. Okay. So let's set some things straight, because these are some of the things I hear from people when I talk to somebody and I ask them, like, hey, they call me to sign up for a workshop. They want to pick my brain. I got a guy call me tonight. And Don, thank you for the referral. John called me. We visited a little bit. He said you guys met this weekend at a tax lien conference, which is great. We visited for a few minutes. But here's the thing I get from people. And when I hear some of these things, it makes my skin kind of crawl, especially when I hear things that I know to be falsehoods, or they were things that were good 3 years, 5 years, 10 years ago. that aren't true now that somebody's still teaching. Eek. Okay. This is the first thing. I just want to buy in non-judicial states. I just want to buy in fast foreclosure states. Okay, great. You can do that, but it's going to cost you a whole lot more. What do you mean it's going to cost me a whole lot more? I said, well, those are the faster foreclosure states. Those are more popular. Those go at a higher price. Texas, Georgia, yeah, those are fast non-judicial foreclosure states. But guess what? You're going to pay religiously 60, 70 cents on the dollar because it is so fast to foreclose. If I'd have just been buying in Texas when I started, I'd have gone broke because I just wasn't seeing a lot of stuff that made sense. You should mix things up. I always say mix things up with a couple judicial and a couple non-judicial states. So you've got some faster ones and some other ones that can work out. Now, avoid the worst ones. I'll talk about the worst ones, okay? This is the thing that when I hear this and I ask them who they heard this from, I could name some names, but I'm not going to, okay? But when somebody is teaching dying in hardest hit fund states, look, the hardest hit funds have been gone for almost, 6 years, 7 years now. Yeah, they expired a while back. All that money in the hardest hit funds. If you don't know what the hardest hit fund states, after we had the debacle of 2008, Congress enacted the hardest hit funds, which was for 18 states plus the District of Columbia. And it gave millions of dollars, if not billions, to California and Florida for those states to give to servicers, to servicing companies, to incentivize them to do loan modifications. And they would give, up to a year or 6 months or a year of back payments on the front end and pay for these borrowers' mortgages. And then they would go forward for a period of time. I got a couple hardest hit fund checks. It was great. But the amount of paperwork that people had to go through, you had to have a dedicated person to help people fill it out. And there is an idiot on the West Coast, maybe two, that are teaching people to buy in the hardest hit fund states. I'm like, it doesn't make sense to buy in the hardest hit fund states. No, because the hardest hit fund money is no longer gone. Ohio went through it faster than a chimichanga, okay? In a Mexican buffet through your organs, okay? Florida never even really got it off the ground, and then they had attorneys take it over and screwed it all up, okay? It just doesn't exist. So if you hear somebody say that, ask them where they heard it from and then run, okay? And I'm serious about this. That is falsehood. Hardest hit fund states do not exist. Now, what have happened since COVID? There have been some states who have their own programs, like Texas enacted $1 billion rental assistance fund. A lot of these states that did stuff with COVID, those funds have gotten up. It was kind of a replacement of the hardest hit funds, but it wasn't called the hardest hit fund. And every state was so unique on what they offered or didn't offer. Okay. So, and a lot of that money has been burned through and gone. Okay. But if you hear somebody say that, just run. Whoever they're learning it from is not a note investor, because that's my biggest pet peeve. Sorry to hammer home that. I just want to buy in Texas and Georgia. I hear that. I'm like, okay, same thing. That kind of goes to I just want to buy in non-judicial states. Great. You want to buy in the two most expensive states. You got to expect to be buying at 70 cents on the dollar or greater. And people are like, what? I could buy an REO. Yeah, you probably could. But Texas and Georgia, we do things fast here in the South. Okay. 21 days and 30 days in Georgia. In Georgia, you got to have a separate license. You got to have a mortgage broker's license or loan officer's license to really do this stuff, or you just buy in your IRA. So Georgia has that weird license requirement, unless you use your own self-directed IRA, which you can get around. You can partner up with somebody. Texas is just fast here. It's the Wild West, baby. Boo, 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 boo. Things are going to go more expensive here. And the same thing, that's great, but you're going to probably get outbid, and you better expect to be paying premium pricing because you're buying in the fastest states. Banks, hedge funds are not stupid. They know states, assets in these states, they have a tendency to go more. All right. That's not saying you can't find, like I bought a note in Houston for 50 cents of value, actually 45 cents on the dollar of value. All right, great. I had to foreclose, put some rehab into it. Great. You can buy contract for deeds in Georgia a little bit cheaper than you can a first mortgage in Texas, Georgia. There are some opportunities, but for the most part, you have to get outside those two states, okay? Go Longhorns, go Bulldogs. I want to buy New York and New Jersey. Now, when I hear this from somebody, it's the opposite side. I'm like, you must be an idiot. No offense. Any of our friends up there in, that land. Because why would you want to invest in a non-performing note in the two longest foreclosure markets in the world? Okay. 3 years in New York and really 2 years in New Jersey. The one exception being a vacant property in New Jersey has an expedited foreclosure of 6 months. That's the only like asterisk, but still, for what you're paying for assets, you can buy a whole lot more, a whole lot other places. Now, there are some people who like to buy notes and then they go and offer cash for keys and then try to work it out with people. I get it. Look, but I just don't want to waste my time there because that's like I don't want to tie money up for 3 years. Now you can broker stuff there as people want to do that. That's great, but I'm not going to waste my time there oftentimes because the sellers. Now this is all across New York. Yes, New York has like Niagara Falls and Buffalo, New York, and other places like that, Syracuse and stuff like that, that aren't going to be as crazy priced. I mean, like Niagara Falls area and that neck of the woods in Buffalo is pretty cheap. But still, you've got a longer foreclosure time frame than most. So it's almost better in those markets just to go ahead and buy it and keep it as a rental. Okay, I wouldn't owner finance it because then you're the bank and you're stuck on the hook if somebody doesn't pay. Right? Just weird laws. So you want to be buying in bank friendly or lender and landlord friendly states for the most part. Okay. What's another one that just aggravates me? Oh, I only want to buy in my city. I'm like, okay. Like I said before, if you just want to buy in San Diego or Phoenix, or I'm in my city of Miami, it's all I want to buy in, that's fine. Just note investing is not for you. Okay. You got to get outside your market. You realize that you're going to be buying in multiple states and you got to get outside. You can't go and do everything in your own market. And I see that. Now, I just want to buy to add my rental portfolio. That's great. I mean, I had a conversation with a hedge fund guy a week ago. I was down in Miami for a day. And he's like, oh, you get anything in Miami? I rehab it here myself. I was like, what about the rest of the part? No, I'll sell it all. The rest of it. But Miami, I want to rehab. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but that's your choice. But anyway, it's okay. Get outside your comfort zone because there is a special tool. I mean, how many of you guys that are on here tonight can I get a heck yeah to a special tool that helps you with all the due diligence you need on any market out there? Can I get a yes? Okay. I'm not going to go through individual states. So whoever's asking me about the New England areas, I don't buy there. It's too damn cold. Okay. Don't buy in a lot of cold markets. Just not a big fan of it. I don't see a lot of stuff in those states. Massachusetts, it's a longer time to foreclose and not worth it for the most part. Okay. You got 5 people. Yes. Richard, T. Miller, Linda Martin, John Sherry, Don. Yes. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you guys for sharing. You guys are going to crack up at me. Yes. From, AI Entrepreneur Online. That's good. Okay. So let's move on. Oh, here's another one. I only want to buy in California. I'm like, you only want to buy in the land of fruits and nuts. I'm sorry, there's been a drought. So all the fruits dried up is just a bunch of nuts. Hell no, you don't want to buy in the communist state of California. All right. RJ says yes. New York and New Jersey are nightmares. Yeah, but California can be a nightmare as well because it takes forever to foreclose there. California has a judicial and a non-judicial foreclosure. If it's owner occupied, you got to go to judicial, and it's just a nightmare there. That's why everybody's leaving California to come to Texas or Arizona or God's waiting room, Florida. Okay, no, don't come, stay. All the people in Austin are leaving Austin to get away from all the Californians. Okay, anyway. When I hear those things, no, you don't want to buy in California. What you can buy one note in California, you can buy a block in St. Louis or Kansas City, or buy a whole crapload of assets. Okay. Like at one time I bought, I'm not joking, 245 non-performing notes for $1.1 million for one house in San Diego. Who's got better leverage? I bought it at 20 cents on the dollar. Okay. Actually, I bought it more like 15 cents because the whole tape, when we figured it out, was worth closer to 8 million versus the 1.1 or the 1.5. Okay. So you don't only want to buy in California. You only want to buy in California. Sayonara, stay there. We'll see you later after it falls into the ocean. Okay. I'm having a little bit of fun with this. Let's have some fun. No offense to anybody that lives there. I got plenty of beautiful people there. I love San Diego. It's a great place. Okay. So here's the thing you look at. When you're getting started, get outside your city, get outside of your states for the most part, and look to start investing in 5 states. Cinco estados, okay? 5 states. Now you want a mixture of these. You probably want to have you know, 2 judicial, 3 non-judicial, or somewhere mix of that, depending on where you're located. Okay. If you're in a state that has a lot of them, great. Your state can be in one of those 5. If you're in a state that doesn't, like I don't count Texas, and even though Texas is home, Texas is not one of my top 5 states. It's a bonus. Okay. And so here's what you have to do. The first thing you got to look at, are there notes in your state consistently? So like if you live in Ohio, Indiana, the Carolinas, Maryland, Florida, then the answer to the first thing is yes, it should be in one of your top 5 states. And look at the states around, what are easy to get to. Okay. What states around you have big cities that have 50,000 people or more? Like I'll give you an example. If you live in Jackson, Mississippi, I would only be buying in Jackson, Mississippi, and not really in town where all the gang problems. I'd be buying outside of Jackson, but not too far, because there ain't a lot of cities in Mississippi that have more than 50,000. I think there's only 2 cities. Okay. So you gotta be careful of that. All right. If you're buying in Alabama, there are some bigger cities, but you got to be prepared for that longer redemption period. Okay. So you got to know what's going on in the states. Now, the next question you want to ask, do you have friends, connection, relatives, people that you like and trust? Do you have somebody that would go out and take a photo for you? Okay. Somebody would drive out within an hour to take a photo and look at a property for you. That's a friend. Okay. We've all got people that will flake off on us. I'm not asking for flakes. We're asking for friends. Connection in those states that would drive out, would be an assistance to you. Now, many times you're going to have to hire a realtor, somebody to go out there and do that for you. That's fine. And that would mean everywhere in the state. But if you got a friend, a family member, somebody in real estate around you, great. Call them. If you don't, then call Baldwin Advisory Group. Call Dickie. He's your one-stop for due diligence. He can do a property inspection, external property inspection report, or do an external BPO. But we're talking on the front end side. Okay. Don't need to be doing due diligence right now. Okay. But that's the big thing. Look for people in your states. You have friends, families. Like I know I can call Columbus, Ohio, and speak to Bill and Heidi up there, and a few others, and they would drive by any property and look at it. If it's in Cincinnati, I know I can call Larry. Okay. Those are the great things. If it's Huntington Beach, California, I know I can call Linda Martin, and she would go take a look at it. All right. Those are the things to take a look at. All right. And like I said, okay, those states, and look, are those major cities in those states have 50K or more? All right, that's the thing to look at. How many states or how many cities in it specifically have 50,000 or more people? Starting off, you probably want to be at 100,000 or more. Okay. Why 50,000? Well, that means there's enough people there to buy the property or rehab crews or realtors and all the other things that you need if you got to take the property back. You don't want to have to pay an attorney to drive 3 hours across the state to show up at a foreclosure auction. Trust me, I've done that. It's not fun. Okay. And like I said, it's probably going to be a mixture of a couple judicial and a couple non-judicial states. Maybe stick with 4, depending on the state. Maybe you're buying in 6. Okay. The idea here is not to get so overwhelmed. And I've seen when we've had our mastermind event or even a class before, I've dropped a list of like 500 notes in front of my students. And I've seen realtors like flip out. I had a lady one time who's a realtor in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Great REO agent. She started flipping out. She's like, oh my God, where do I begin? I don't know what to look at. I'm like, okay, let's look at what are you interested in first? You're not buying for your clients, you're buying for your own portfolio. What do you have interest in? Well, I live in Georgia. Well, let's start in Georgia. Where else? Well, I want to retire in Florida. Okay, let's look in Florida then. Those would be two states. Let's just start with those 2 and work your way out. You can always go back and look at more, but start with the states that you have the most amount of interest in that you will end up in. Okay. I do not include California and Texas in those states. They're bonus states. Okay. If you live in California, you got to get outside of California. I'm sorry. A lot of Californians like to buy in Missouri or Kansas because there's opportunities there. Kansas has a longer foreclosure time frame than Missouri does. Missouri's like 90 days, but you get a bigger bang for your buck. Okay. But don't include the communist state of California. Don't include Texas. You just does not know. If you see something, great, look at it. That's what I'm saying. But don't start, oh, I'm going to buy everything in Texas and California. I'll be like, no, you're not. You're going to go broke. Okay. And the thing is, start learning about other states. Okay. Now here's the secret tool. You ready? The secret tool to help you answer all of your questions, to help answer all the questions you have about a state or a market or foreclosure timeframes, is Google. Okay? Not some fancy thing. You'd be surprised. I get people, well, what about this? I'm like, I don't know. Google it. That's what I do. Okay? What are the top 100 mini markets? I Google it. Okay? Yes, you verb the website. You Google it. Now, I'm not trying to be an ass, but you'd be surprised how many simple questions I get. Where's the real estate clubs in those areas? Well, Google it. You'll find it. Real estate clubs in St. Louis, Missouri. Real estate clubs in West Palm Beach. Whatever it is, use the tool. That's what it's there for. It's free, not PropStream, not any of these others. Use Google. You're laughing at me, but I'm serious as a heart attack. When you'd be surprised, like how many times I want to hand out, here's your sign, when I'm talking with people. Just Google it. If you have a question about a state, guess what? Don't go, I don't know, and give up. Jump on and ask, hey, Google, can you answer this question? Hey, Siri. We have so much knowledge at our fingertips these days that people don't use. It's amazing. Anyway, moving on. Now, there are some tools that we use, okay? Now, by tools, I'm talking things that we want to leverage, okay? So when I'm looking at a new city, or when I first started off my real big tour, I started looking at, okay, are there real estate investor groups and associations in that area? If there is in that city, that's a good sign. Within 5 miles, that's great. And you can go to meetup.com, type in a zip code and look for a meetup group and type in real estate interest and then your zip code and tell you 5 miles, 10 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles, okay? That's a good sign. And then you look at those members. And first of all, you also got to look how active these real estate investment groups and meetup groups. There's a lot of meetup groups that have kind of faded away because of COVID. They couldn't meet in person, so people stopped working with them. So take a look at them, see if they've got a president or a contact information for you to reach out to talk to the president. Next thing to look at would be a Facebook group. Type in like New Orleans Real Estate Investment Club or Cleveland Realtor, Cleveland Investor Association, something like that. Those can be a great resource for you buying in a specific area, okay? And I would get the city specific, not state specific. Like there's the Michigan Note Investors Group, which is great, but it's too big. It's not a big enough group anyway to have people from every part of the country, okay? And Facebook groups, the bigger they are, the bigger the area are, the less active and less valuable they are, okay? And then your network. This is why we harp on like a CRM. That's why I tell you to take your business cards that you're getting, no matter who they are, put them in your database, okay? You need to know in the business cards, who lives where does this person live? City, state, phone number. If they don't have a city, state, then they have a name. That's great, but you can always, hey, where do you live? Okay. And we all know people have different networks other places because they live or have family other places, but that's the first thing I would do when I came home from an event is I would take a business card, put it in there, city, state. So I know that if I need somebody to call in West Palm Beach or, Bay City, Michigan, I would know to reach out to those people and have somebody like, I got this realtor here in Foley in Gulf Shores, Alabama at a conference. They're in my database. If I have somebody in Gulf Shores, Alabama, I know to reach out to it. Those are valuable. Look at conferences that are taking place in big cities. Look at podcast networks. These are a great way to find things. Like there's a lot of people that have a podcast for like what's going on in a specific city, like the Kansas City Realtors Investors or investing in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach. Those are some great things to do. And look for different real estate conferences, West Coast, East Coast. IMN has some different events across the country. So look for different conferences, realtor associations, things like that are taking place across the country, okay? Realtor associations, the Board of Realtors. If you need somebody to reach out there, you can use realtor.com. I like to maybe call the realtor associations and say, hey, do you have somebody there? Do you have an event going on? Somebody you would recommend and kind of go from there. Now, what did I do to get knowledgeable about the different states that I picked? Okay, here's what I did first. Okay, I researched my home market. That was the friendliest thing to do. Texas, even though I don't say buy now, there were some deals previously where I was already investing in Texas and doing some wholesale deals and stuff like that. So I treated it first. I found out Austin information in your local real club, and then Dallas and San Antonio, then Houston. You can throw Fort Worth in there with Dallas and then Corpus Christi. So I first started doing these things in my market. What's the RIA clubs? Who's a realtor in those areas that I know? Those are the first things I did. Then Guess what I did? I flew or I drove to a new state and I spent several days there in the major markets. I knew I was going to be buying in St. Louis and Missouri. I was at a time and spent time in St. Louis and Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. Yes, I made a weekend of it. I go and spend a couple days. I can still do my job remote, but if I'm going to invest money in a market, it's best to know what's going on. Best to get a feel for this. I can't tell you how much that saved me, like looking at Columbus, Ohio, knowing like I don't want to buy in the south part of Columbus, Ohio. It's a rougher area. Or I learned that there was anything below $500 at that time or $800 a month in rent was basically a two-gun alley. Same thing for like Michigan and Detroit. Anything south of 8 Mile Road, you probably want to avoid. So the first thing I did is I reached out to investors that I knew in that market. Hey, would you have some time? Can I pick your brain about your market? What the good, the bad, the pros, the cons? Then I would try to, do you have a realtor that I can meet with who's investor friendly? Do you have a real estate attorney that I could talk with? And I'd ask them, hey, what are your trouble areas? Give me some rent rates. You know, is Section 8 good here? Or what kind of rent rate do you want to have on a 3-bedroom, 2-room bath? What low rent rate do you not want to have that would be difficult? You know, the simple things. What are the good zip codes? What are the bad zip codes? You know, where are the homeless shelters at? You know, that kind of stuff. I would always pre-plan my trip out there to try to coincide with a RIA meeting. Or there's a conference or something going on. I can't tell you how many times I flew in a city and I showed up at a RIA meeting. And I still like to do this. I've actually been kicked out of a few RIAs because they're like, oh, we don't like gurus to be. I'm like, I'm coming to network and learn just right. I ain't trying to speak up or do anything. I got kicked out of the Orlando one time. It was kind of funny. I'm like, really? I have so many people that here I send to you. But anyway, but if you can attend a RIA and start collecting cards, tell them you're in the area. They usually have vendors. It's good to meet with some people. Call the president that I had time to meet the RIA and say, hey, I'm coming to town. Many times they'll let you come for free. All right. But they'll often tell you, like, hey, you need to talk to this person, or hey, you need to communicate with this person. Oh, they're not here tonight, but here's a good person to talk to. Okay. I would then also try to meet with a title company, 1 or 2 title companies. And I would also try to meet with a 1 or 2 private money lenders. I'm going to ask the title company, hey, do you have any private money lenders that you'd like that I could meet or talk with? You know, I'd also, if I couldn't find a private money lender, I'd go talk to a hard money lender and just talk with them. You know, it could either be in person or on the phone. Sometimes I would try to set these meetings up at the title company. So the realtor and attorney or the title company and the private money lenders will all be together, and I could visit with them and talk with them, and it would really, then we go to lunch or something like that, but it add a lot of value because I'm bringing people together. It also made the title company look good because they often recommend the attorney or the realtor or the private money lender. So it was to add value. Plus, the title company would often pay for lunch or bring in a lunch because they've got this extra marketing budget. Okay. But I can't tell you how many meetings I went to, especially going out and coaching new real investing students. This is one of the first things you want to do. And you talk with people, you get to know them. And then also, if you're really savvy, I would do this as well. I would try to see if there's a self-directed IRA meetup, you know, like Quest has their schedule in Houston or San Antonio, other parts of the country. Like I flew to Seattle before to be part of a RIA club meeting and a self-directed IRA meeting. Done this in California, did it in Orlando and Lake Mary. Those are great things to go. And if you can, I mean, I've even gone to expos and spoke at different events and then marketed to IRA investors before I got there because I had a month out. So 2 weeks out, I'm dropping a postcard. Or the week of the event, I drop a postcard or email blast. Say, hey, I'd love for you to come out. And I coordinated with the RIA club or the expo to get people to come together. So this is things that I would do to market with people. And I walk around the vendor area and get a card. You never know when you're going to need a phone call to a hard money lender. Hard money lenders are great to help you move assets as well, too. Okay. And then I just rinse and repeated this for different states, different cities. This is not difficult. You can do the same thing too, everybody out there. This is just genius for you to make it easier on you. Now, Baldwin Advisor Group does a lot with title companies and realtors and stuff like that. But sometimes you just got to talk to people. Sometimes there's pocket networking or pocket. I've gotten some of the best private money lenders because they came from a pocket listing from a title rep in the local area. And I was looking, told them what I was going to be buying, and it would be notes. They couldn't necessarily do notes, but they would be glad to help me sell the REOs or help me with the other network of people. Okay. Now, how did the journey go? When I got started, this is kind of, I mean, I literally used every opportunity I could to learn about markets and states. Okay. I was a sponge, and a lot of us are not sponges. A lot of stuff, I know everything. And I saw my buddy, he had an MBA, he'd sit with his feet up during when we were traveling the country for expos, stuff like that. He's in the back room. Well, I'm out there hustling, I'm out there networking, getting to know people. And it just, how can I learn something? Tell me about your market. Anything unique about your market that I should keep an eye out? So I started and learned about Texas. Then I learned about California. Then I learned about Indiana and North Carolina. I mean, I flew to different parts of California and worked with investors. I flew to West Lafayette. I flew to Indianapolis and Anderson and Elk City and South Bend, Indiana, to learn about it. North Carolina, to Raleigh. I was actually helping my hairdresser, or not my hairdresser, my barber tonight or whatever, with a property in Raleigh, Durham. I got a guy there. Go talk to him. Okay, Maryland, Utah, Arizona, Louisiana, Missouri. I know you don't all have the budget to travel. I get that. I was very unique, no kids. Most of this I traveled divorced, or then Steph came along and traveled with me. We don't have kids. That's fine. But you can take time to go make a trip. You can fly a lot of places on Southwest Airlines. Okay. You can fly a lot of locations on Southwest. Yes, I don't care what you say, but they're the easiest for business travel because you can book it and then unbook it or cancel it, change. Like we rebook our flights constantly because the points go up or the costs go down and go from there. But I just made, every time I went somewhere, I needed to add somebody to my pocket. I need somebody to add to my Rolodex of contacts. Okay. If you don't know what a Rolodex is, call Dickie. He's probably got one on his desk right now. Okay. But one of the things I started working with a couple other note investors, and we started seeing, opportunities. So we started setting up shadow inventory roadshows. And we'd get a group of about 15 investors fly in, rent a couple Sprinter vans, and we'd spend 3 days in 2 major markets, driving around looking at assets that we get from hedge funds. Okay. And first one we did, we flew into Chicago. We looked at Chicago assets, then drove down to Indianapolis, looked at stuff there, and then drove back to Chicago. I mean, we were burning daylight, getting up early and really hitting. We hit 40 assets in 3 days. That's a lot of assets to go. And when you add that 4 to 5 hour drive in between too. Okay. Best deep dish pizza you'll ever find. Portillos, hot dogs, and stuff like that. But I've walked into properties in Indianapolis. I'm like, we got to get the heck out of Dodge here. This is rough. Okay. Gary, Indiana, stopping along the way. In different parts as well too. Okay. Kansas City. All right. Flew into St. Louis, we flew into Kansas. No, we flew into St. Louis, actually. Quick looking at assets, drove across the state to look at stuff in Kansas City for a day, and drove back for St. Louis. We had 35 assets in 3 days. Same thing with 15 people. Florida. Florida's a big state, okay? So Steph and I, we flew up there, flew into Jacksonville. We rented an SUV, and we drove around Florida for a week. I say this is closer to 9 days when I think about it, but we literally went down the coast, Jacksonville South, down the coastline, West Palm Beach, down to Smyrna Beach, West Palm Beach, down to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, down to Homestead. We didn't go to Key West. We already been to Key West before, and then turned up the state, went across Alligator Alley to Naples and Marco Island and Fort Myers and Cape Coral. Fell in love with Cape Coral there, Lehigh Acres. Going up, to Port Charlotte, going all the way up to Tampa. And then we drove down, then we went from Tampa to Orlando and flew back into Austin. We spent a huge amount of time and looked at 90 assets, 45 that I owned and another 45 that we reviewed for a couple of hedge funds and stuff that we made an offer on. Okay. Ohio, we spent 5 days driving to Ohio before I spoke at a conference out there and looked at 85 notes. Woo. Then we did another time the month later, we went to Michigan and we looked at 55 notes in 3 days. We made this big giant triangle, flew into Detroit, looked all around Detroit for a day, drove up, looked to Bay City, went from Bay City, drove it across the state to Grand Rapids and Lansing, and came in Ann Arbor, and then we went and looked at assets there. But I knew what Michigan looked like. Steph had no idea. She fell much more in love with Michigan assets because all she saw was something out of a M&M movie. Okay, yes, we looked at plenty of trashed out houses. Okay, in Florida, we were driving through this one part of Tampa. We're like, we need to get the hell out of here. This is a bad part of town. We should not be driving in this nice SUV. Okay, I got shot at in Gary, Indiana. twice on road shows. Okay. Yes, I've been shot at. But what I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, is you just sometimes, if you're looking at assets, you're going in an area, hey, this is what I do. Is there an asset I can go look at? I mean, I'm probably going to drive down Sunday, go look at an asset in San Antonio just to look at it and meet with my realtor buddy down there, just to, stuff like that. You never know when you're going to see something on a list that you need somebody to drive across town for. Okay. And that's why, like, I drove up to Dallas a few weeks ago and looked at a couple stuff. That's part of the reason I went out to Miami looking at an asset. All right. I should have looked at 2 more when I was out there, but I was in and out in literally like 24 hours. But there's so much value in doing this. And yes, using Google is a good thing. Using a real estate club, putting your eyes on assets are great. So the question I get is, so where would I focus today? Yes, there are plague states down there bottom. This is not an error. You want to, if you're buying in California, I would just say don't. Okay. If you're there and you got money invested, I get it. You may have a niche, that's fine, but I wouldn't buy in Oregon for sure. That state's corrupt. I wouldn't buy in Washington State. Both Oregon and Washington have weird laws about buying notes. They want you to be a mortgage broker. And New York and New Jersey, once again, I would not buy there. But Ohio and Michigan, I put a big asterisk about Ohio. It seems like Ohio is the foothold of Revelation, right? With that in Palestine and them finding chemicals and the other one coming off the hook, you know what I mean? Just recently there, the other day, another thing. I'd avoid some of those rougher areas, but Michigan, I like Michigan. Major cities, like I said, anything over 50,000 people. I mean, Ohio, you've got Cincinnati, you've got Columbus, you've got Akron, Toledo, Cleveland is one I don't buy a lot in, but you've got some decent cities there. There's plenty of opportunity. Michigan, same thing. Lansing, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Bay City, Grand Rapids. There's a lot of nice cities in that neck of the woods that I would be gladly buy something. Just don't want to live there half the year because it's too damn cold. All right. Another state, I'm big on the Hoosier state, Indiana. I think it's a great market. Even Gary is coming back where I've been shot at. Gary's a gentrified city. They're really doing a lot of stuff with the downtown and the harbor there. So, but Anderson, Indianapolis, West Lafayette, where Purdue University is at. I know I'm missing a few. I say South Bend, Elkhart. And you got some decent. Illinois is also not bad, but you just got to avoid Cook County. And thank goodness that the most corrupt or racist mayor we've ever seen in Cook County was voted out. Doesn't mean it's going to get any better. Corruption, crime, just stay outside of Cook County. All right. Other areas. I mean, I've bought in Calumet City, which is in southern Cook County, but you're going to be better in Lake DuPage County, other parts of Illinois out there as well. And if you live in Illinois, you're better off there because, I mean, if you live in Illinois, that works in your favor. If you don't live in Illinois, I would just probably avoid it just because they have a tendency to drag things out. But if you live in any one of these 4 states, great. You've got a lot of inventory in your backyard. Same thing with Missouri and Kansas. Missouri's a non-judicial state. Kansas is a judicial state. It takes a year to foreclose in Kansas. You get a little bit cheaper price. Plenty of opportunities. There's the same thing. There's some bigger markets. Topeka, Kansas City, Kansas. What else is in Kansas that I'm drawing a blank on? I'm going to say Leavenworth, even though I've owned a couple. Leavenworth is not bad. Manhattan, where K-State is at, that's not a bad area. So look, okay. South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Okay, now Georgia, little asterisk next to that as well, because they do require that when you have a mortgage broker's license unless you're using your IRA. Fast foreclosure. South Carolina, 1 year to foreclose, but plenty of opportunity. Florida takes about a year to foreclose. And I put a big asterisk next to Florida because you really need to check out the insurance rates. Your forced place insurance rate can kill a deal or really take a big bite out of your income. Take a big bite out of your profit. So make sure of that. I've got people that have lost a hell lot of money because they were paying an insurance premium that was just eating their lunch. Okay. And then they stopped paying it, and then a hurricane showed up, and they wish they'd been paying it, but they didn't have the money to do it. So Florida's great, but it's changed. It's not nearly as cheap as it used to be. Not as many deals, you got parts of Miami that are great. There are other areas around Florida that are not bad, but you just got to be careful because it's not as cheap to live in anymore as it used to be. Okay. Maryland and Virginia, not bad. Once again, Maryland's a little longer foreclosure process compared to Virginia. Virginia is a non-judicial foreclosure, pretty fast. I don't see a lot of stuff necessarily in Virginia. I'm not going to say Washington, D.C., because I rarely see anything in the capital. What I do see there is usually way so overpriced. It's just not worth wasting my time with. Maryland, you're going to see some stuff there. Baltimore, explicitly be careful. Careful of the water leans and stuff like that. Bonus states. Here's your bonus. Yes, Texas. If I see something in Texas, it's a bonus. If I see something in Nevada, Las Vegas or Reno, or like Henderson, which is outside of Las Vegas, that's a bonus. Okay. Arizona, stick to the major cities in Arizona. Tempe, Phoenix, Scottsdale, great. They're going to be also kind of higher price, but it's not so bad. Utah, I don't see that much stuff, but I want to stick to the areas around Salt Lake City for the most part. You might look at Provo as well. Just got to be careful about some of the eviction laws. Make sure it's not in a compound of any sort. It's because it's got a weird law about if something's under rehab, you can't evict. Okay. Colorado, if you see anything in Colorado, it's a bonus. I just don't see much stuff there. Stuff that I have seen a lot of has been in Pueblo. You got to be careful about Pueblo. It's a very depreciated area. Tennessee's a really hot market, especially Nashville. So things in Knoxville, Chattanooga, Murfreesboro is also a great little area that's been coming, but those are all bonuses. I don't count those states in my top 5, even though I live here in the Lone Star State. Okay. They're all bonuses. The plague states are the ones you want to avoid. Okay. And so a good habit, a good thing for you to do is go out and look at the top 100 media markets. Okay. And look how many cities you recognize. Okay. Like, I'll give you an example. New York, I wouldn't buy in. LA, too expensive. Chicago, no. Philadelphia, okay. Dallas, Fort Worth, yeah. San Francisco, no. Atlanta, yeah. Houston, yeah. Washington, D.C., no. Boston, no. So really, on the top 10, you only really have 2, 3 markets, maybe 4 markets you'd actually really buy in. Okay. 11th or 20th, Phoenix, okay. Seattle, no. Tampa, yes. Minneapolis, St. Paul, you gotta be careful there because it does freeze the hell out of there. And they have a 1-year redemption period. Detroit, yes. Denver, if I can find something that makes sense, sure. Orlando all day. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, yeah. Cleveland, Akron, yeah. Canton, Sacramento, probably not. All right. Look at the next. Whoops. What did I just do there? Oh, I know there's a link to it. My bad. Portland, no. Charlotte, yes. Raleigh, Durham, yes. St. Louis, yes. Indianapolis, yes. Pittsburgh, San Diego, I would, but it's just a bonus. Baltimore, yeah. Nashville, bonus. Salt Lake City, bonus. San Antonio, yes. Hartford, New Haven, I don't see much stuff there. Columbus, yes. Kansas City, yes. Greenville, yes. Cincinnati, yes. Milwaukee, no, because the property taxes are way too high. Austin, it's just way overpriced. If I see something, yes, I'll look at it, but it's just often crazy. West Palm Beach, all day there. Yeah, be careful about Fort Pierce, kind of a rougher area. Las Vegas, yes, if it makes sense. I'm just going to go through the first 6. I'm not going to do all of them. Grand Rapids, yes. No in Harrisburg. Jacksonville, yes. Oklahoma City, yes. Birmingham, yes. Norfolk News, yeah. Newport, I would look at that. Greensboro, yes. Albuquerque, yes. Louisville, yes. New Orleans, you got to be careful because it is a judicial foreclosure process in Louisiana. Memphis, you got to be careful. Block by block. Providence, probably not. Buffalo, no. Fort Myers, Naples, yes, I would. You're going to see a lot more distressed stuff there because of everything that happened with the hurricane and issues. Fresno, no. Richmond, maybe. Mobile, Pensacola, yes, I would definitely look at Fort Walton Beach. I don't. Scranton, no. I might look there. Little Rock, yes, I would look there. Albany and Troy, Schenectady, no, I would not. But you do your own research. The reason I threw this up is just a simple thing. So when you look through these, you start thinking, hey, like I found out this week, I got a cousin down in Cape Coral I've never known I didn't know that for years. I thought he lived in Minneapolis. I'm like, I would have been meeting him down there for a while. I got a realtor, a real good buddy of mine. Brent Garrett's a realtor down in Cape Coral. Lily O'Day, she's in Naples, Florida, half the time. Okay. So do this little search. Who do you know in those areas? Who can you help? Who can be helpful for you? And really kind of go from there. Does that make sense, everybody? You kind of follow me in kind of the process for picking your 5 states. Everybody's going to be different. If you got resources in one city and you're comfortable with a longer foreclosure process than most, that's all by all means. Knock it out of the park. Okay. If you come to me and ask for help on foreclosures in New York, New Jersey, I'm gonna be like, I don't know. That's your own. It's tar baby you got to deal with. Okay. But I just want to let you guys know we do have, just so you know, some people have been asking me, we do have our next virtual, our 3-day virtual note buying workshop upcoming here in just under a month, April 7th through the 9th. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's $997. That's for you plus a spouse or partner. Yes, you can split it. I don't care. If you need a separate sign-up link, let me know. We can send you one. It's 3 days full content, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and most of the day on Sunday. We get a 200+ page manual. We got some new content. We just put together a new 4-page due diligence checklist. A brand new 4-page due diligence checklist for our WCN crew members. It's be part of the class. Okay. That means I gotta tweak the manual. Time to update the manual. Replays are included. So if you're attending for the first time, you don't have to wait a month to start learning. You can actually get your on-demand learning now by watching the replays from January's class and start learning now. It's all done via Zoom, so you can be home in your comfort in your pajamas and chilling, take the day off, and join us April 7th, 8th, and 9th. Like I said, start learning now. You can start learning tonight, tomorrow, if you want to, when you get signed up. And like I said, it's really easy. Just go to notebuyingfordummies.com. That's the website for you to get signed up for the class. If you have a partner or spouse, just sign up for one. Let us know with an email and who we need to add to it, their name, their cell phone, their email. No, we're not going to spam them. We just need that information so we can add them for the alert. Sometimes our emails go to people's spam, so we like to make sure. So, guys, if you really want to learn this business, great. Somebody asked me if I was ever going to bring back the shadow inventory road shows, if I was going to go ever to like Ohio or Michigan again or Florida and drive around looking at assets. And the thought had crossed my mind, and we might do it again. We might do it again this summer. We might do it around something that we have going on and have some fun with it at some point. Just it's a little early, and but if there is some interest, we might send an email out and go from there. So some opportunities for you guys to take a look at some stuff and maybe get your feet wet in the market. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns, ladies and gentlemen? And no more comments there on the YouTube live streaming. Comments on here, guys. Hopefully this is valuable for you. You have your resources all at your fingertips, ladies and gentlemen. And then guess what? Get on a plane, take a trip. Just don't make it a 3-hour boat tour, okay, with Gilligan. But get on it. You know, that's what I love about being in Austin, Texas. I'm literally 2 hours away from 80% of the country. If you're on the West Coast, then you fly into Kansas City or St. Louis or something like that and check out those cities and put things together. People want to meet with investors coming in. They do. There's plenty of opportunity, and they want to be working with investors, and we have the opportunity to make things happen. So if there's no any other questions or comments, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you again for being here on Note Night in America. Hopefully you listen to the podcast. If you are listening to the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe, not only to the podcast, but also check out our YouTube channel at WeCloseNotes.tv and subscribe there. But you guys go out. Hopefully we'll see the class. Get signed up tonight at No Buying for